Good morning, Ruach. Today is the second day of our 7 days of prayer and fasting. I know you might be starting to feel hungry, so at this time I encourage you to keep up drinking lots of water. That'll help fill you up and help you not feel so hungry. Also, stay in the Word. The Word of God, it says again, like I mentioned yesterday, that man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God. So I encourage you, stay in the Word. Let that feed you. Let that be your bread. I have another word today to share from Ezra chapter 8, verse 21 to 23. I'm going to read that really quickly. It says in chapter 8, verse 21, "Then I proclaimed a fast there at the river Ahava, that we might humble ourselves before our God to seek from him the right way for us and our little ones and all our possessions. For I was ashamed to request of the king an escort of soldiers and horsemen to help us against the enemy on the road, because we had spoken to the king, saying, the hand of our God is upon all those for good who seek him, but his power and wrath are against all those who forsake him. So we fasted and entreated our God for this, and he answered our prayer." Some quick context on this. Ezra is going back to Jerusalem from Babylon, and along with him he is taking a bunch of people, obviously children as well, but they're also taking a great amount of valuables. They're taking gold and silver for the temple. So there is huge risk along this road that bandits or other entities, other nations even, would come to steal from them on this road. So in those times, oftentimes the military would escort those dignitaries from one place to another in order to let them be protected and not taken captive or killed for the valuables they had. So Ezra is faced with a choice with this problem. He needs to go to Jerusalem, but where's the protection going to come from? And he has the favor with the king. He could ask for the king. This is the natural provision that he could ask for. But Ezra also has a word that he's holding on to. He has been studying the prophet Jeremiah. He's been reading what the prophets have said. He understands what God did in the time of Exodus and when he brought the people out of Egypt. So Ezra has a word to hang on to. He's also been proclaiming to the king, our God is great. There's a notable difference between the God of Israel, Yahweh, and the gods of the Medes, the Persians, and the Babylonians. So in differentiating this God, he shows and he tells the king, this is how significant our God is. But so Ezra did not want to in any way, shape, or form tarnish the reputation of God. So Ezra was willing to put his life in the hands of God and God alone, based on the word of the Lord that he knew. This wasn't based on assumption. It wasn't based on guessing games, but this was based on a solid word from the Lord and what he knew of God and his faith in God. And he was willing to put his life in God's hands. And the fast that Ezra called was to show God that we mean business. We have faith in you, and we're calling on you, and we're asking that you would be faithful to your promises. And that's what God does. He is faithful to his promises. There's another example of this in a more modern setting. You may have heard of the missionary to China, Hudson Taylor. Before he went to China, he had an experience. He was working for a doctor, and in his career, his doctor said, "Remind me when your paycheck is due." And Hudson Taylor at that moment decided, and he even said to God, "I'm not going to remind him. I'm going to trust God that you're going to be the reminder of this." It is not necessary, but in his mind, he wanted to prepare to be able to walk in faith and act in faith in his missionary journeys in China. So this was almost like a proving ground, almost like a testing ground. And so there was at least one time that he documents that's documented in his biography, where his employer forgot to pay him for an extended period of time. And he was really in a place of destitution. And he came into this time of prayer to say, God, what do I do? Do I go and ask? Do I ask for this money? Because I need the money. I need to pay my rent. I don't have any food. And so through his time of prayer, he heard this answer from God. Wait, my time is best. And so even though there was an agonizing wait, and even though there was some false starts along the way, he was able to hold on to that word and see that God was faithful. And even in the provision, it wasn't just oh yeah, here's your money. There was a moment where it's like, oh, I owe you money, but I don't have any cash. And then God provided the cash right at that time, right when it was needed, right at that moment. And so the joy that he expressed, that God, he provided right at my moment of need. But he was willing to wait, and he was willing to see the miraculous come by waiting and seeking God and believing the word that God had given him. So for us, the question is, what word has God given to you? What word has he impressed from the Bible? What prophetic word has he given to you? During this time of fasting, it's a time that we can pray into that. We can declare, God, you have said this. God, you will be faithful. We know that you have been faithful in the past. The testimonies of the past speak to us. We know that you are faithful. So Lord, work this out. Show us how you would move forward in this. Lord, provide for where you need to provide, because I stand on your promises and I believe in your promises. Sometimes we can be tempted to make things happen of our own accord and our own abilities. But in what situation is God saying, wait, my time is best? The results of these stories is that God is faithful to answer our prayers. Base your prayers on the word of God and the promise he has given, because he is always faithful to his word. Today we are meeting at Kingsland Hall. I encourage you to come today in expectation of what God is going to do. That's at Kingsland Hall. You can find the details on our website. Hope to see you there. God bless.